All right, how is everyone doing? I am Rich CELENZA. Thanks for tuning in to the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? So basically, this is going to be my 200th episode, which I can't believe. I'm actually blown away by that number. I feel like I just started this damn thing. And so what I just want to do today is basically kind of do a recap and kind of go through a lot of things that I've gone through the last year regarding the podcast. And originally, I wanted to make the podcast more comedic, and I still do. What happened was I ended up having to travel a lot again. So it was very hard for me to schedule a lot of people that I wanted to interview or have on the show. That was one of the main problems. The other thing was I did start to do some, they were kind of personal, where I was able to meet the person. It could even be my girlfriend, or it could be other friends, or people I know in business, or just interesting people. And the audio wasn't at where I wanted it to be. And so some were good, some were bad. Then, I heard about all these different things with taping it on the phone. Tried a few, I thought they sucked. Now Zoom came out, I just haven't gotten around to doing it. Somebody even sent me a video on how to do it correctly. And the thing is, a lot with those phones, and somebody I know, a friend of mine, is doing the Zoom thing on his podcast. They look good, but he still sends a lot of it, from what I understand, to a production company. And truthfully, I don't want to be aggravated with that shit anymore. I made a couple feature films, and I'm not in the mood to edit shit, except I'll edit my YouTube videos, because they're pretty simple, on iMovie. I'm shooting my videos, just like my podcast, as raw as possible. I don't even usually, I don't think I've ever used notes on my podcast, but maybe once. And I don't even think I used it. So a lot of people keep asking me, where do I come up, for one, with subjects that I'm going through on my podcast? And either most of the time they just pop in my head. It's something that I'm questioning, or something that I've questioned previously that came to me. So I will put that in my notes. Literally one line. It could be just like my last podcast. Not sure if you listened to it. It was regarding a lot of parents hitting me up, asking me what would I recommend as far as their children working out with weights. And I did a podcast on that because that was something that I kept getting asked. And the one thing I wanted to do with the podcast is make people laugh, and it's kind of weird. I don't think I went that route, and sometimes in life it's kind of funny where things take you. I still want to go that route. I actually looked at the description of what my podcast was going to be, and it's really nothing like that. So I'm debating on if I should change that or not. And back to, I met with someone the other day, and I've actually met with, not a ton of people in the last year. I really haven't made myself available for any meetings at all, not even phone calls. I just kind of did my podcast and my YouTube videos. That's just really what I wanted to do. And I started the Mastering Self-Confidence program. And I basically more focused on content, or getting content up. And again, I just wanted to be as raw as possible. And the good thing is, I think for the most part, some people seem to like it. I'm sure a lot think it sucks as well. I could care less, to be honest with you. But what I like about my podcast is, for the most part, I just go do it independently when I feel like doing it, and I close my eyes and I just talk. And if you know anything about me, I travel a lot, so I'm by myself a majority of the time. I'm literally, when I say in an airport, on a flight, in a hotel, or in a gym, or in a mall, or an Italian restaurant. That basically sums up my life. Unless I'm meeting with my daughters, or going out with my girlfriend and her kids, or just my girlfriend, or meeting my parents. But that's my life. So instead of me, when I was doing this podcast, at the beginning saying, oh my God, I got to schedule this, I got to do this, I got to do this, I just said, let me just voice my opinion. A lot of people, I'm sure, are going to disagree with it, but I don't know why I did what I did, because a lot of times I'm very introverted or extroverted. But I also met with some others as well that were talking about my podcast. Some actually are preachers, which sounds crazy. Training to be a preacher, a lot of public speakers, all these different people. And they literally thought I was like setting all this up. It was scheduled. And I did notes, like I had a computer in front of me. I do not have a computer in front of me. I don't have anything in front of me. I just speak from the heart and the mind, and I didn't want to edit anything that I said. If I don't like what I said, I'll delete it. Sometimes I do got to go back and go, you know what, you sound like a jagoff there. Or I'll change my mind a lot of times too. I'll say something, and I'll be like, after I thought about that, I actually don't even agree with myself. And I think a lot of people should think about that sometimes, because a lot of times we're programmed, and I talk about this. We say things that are just almost automatic, but we don't necessarily believe it anymore, especially when it comes to politics or religion or a lot of things, because our beliefs kind of became outdated, and we'll almost still stand behind it because we don't want to say we're wrong, or we don't want to tell people that we're changing or our opinions are changing because we're afraid of what our other friends, families, colleagues are going to think. But I always talk about on the podcast, it's like you versus the world. You really don't have, at least in America or North America for the most part, you don't have anybody really to answer to once you become an adult. I mean, you may feel like you have to, but you can walk off into the sunset and, jump into an ocean and fucking drown. Your life is your life. And I always say, if you don't have a gun pointed at your head, you're in the driver's seat. Because a lot of people do think they're being controlled by other people, but they're kind of allowing that to happen. And that could go for your personal life or business. And I get a lot of people don't want to change that. They like having somebody kind of in control to a certain degree because it gives them guidelines or gives them boundaries. I've always been kind of the person who always wants to butt up against what everybody's telling me. But I also, I think, want to listen to what other people have to say, because no matter what anyone tells you, a lot of what you're learning is from other people and their experiences. So you can't dismiss that. But I also think a lot of studies are full of shit. I think most people, for the most part, are full of shit. That goes for family members, my closest friends, and myself included. I think we're all kind of living the life that we chose to live. And sometimes we get aggravated if people aren't living the same type of life we're leading or have the same beliefs, which is ridiculous. But our egos, or I just think the way we're programmed where it's this way or no way, or it's only supposed to be, I guess, a certain way. And that's the only way, which as time goes on and we evolve, we start to realize a lot of that is full of shit. You go back 20 years, the way they lived, you kind of would go back and say, holy shit, this is prehistoric. I mean, to a certain degree, like a joke. Go back 30, 40 years, you'd be shocked. As much as a lot of people say we miss the old days or the old days were better, which there were some parts that were better, but I could assure you the times now are incredible. The future's probably going to be just as good, if not better. So we really just need to pay attention to that. And in the podcast, again, I'm trying to, I'm fortunate enough to have still my parents alive and a lot of close friends, family members that I love very much. And I talk about things that I've learned from them. But I also don't mention who they are, but I've always had a lot of beefs with them. And I think a lot of people, when it comes to being themselves, especially on a podcast, let's say, or on a video, is hard for them. It's almost like a performance. So when I made a few films, 2 that I wrote, produced, and directed, I realized a lot of times where we have ourself and then we act a certain way in public. That's not always ourself. And then when I would videotape somebody else, or an actor, for instance, or somebody performing, then they became another person. There's different levels, I think, to all of us, to a certain degree. And the guy I met the other day regarding that, he's like, he met me through somebody in the sauna at the gym. I guess they were questioning me. He's a really cool guy, local guy, and I haven't met anybody in like a year, so I took the time out to meet with him. And he was very genuine, nice guy. And he's like, man, I guess when we were in the sauna, they were asking me what my YouTube channel name was. And then he found me on Instagram. And actually, I don't even run my Instagram account. My girlfriend does. But he connected through there, through her, through me. And I said, sure. He works at the same gym as me. And we went and met. And he said, for the most part, when I saw your videos, I really didn't see any difference between you in the sauna and then you on video. And I said, yeah, I do that now on purpose. I want to make sure you're seeing me 100% for who I am. And that's how I'm dressed that day is how I'm dressed. How I feel that day is how I'm going to talk. What I'm doing that day is what I'm doing. I'm not performing. I think what happened with me in the past is I liked high fashion. And I like dressing up at night, but not during the day. So a lot of things, people would see me even in social media always dressed up, sport coats and all this, and always thought, hey man, he's slick, or he travels and he's this. I'm not that. I like dressing up at night. I like fashion. But during the day, one of the reasons I moved to Florida is because I like to be in shorts. If possible, no shirt. I even did that as a joke recently on my Facebook page in Hawaii. I put just shorts, no shirt at all. Because if you come to Florida, or you see me a lot of times, I'm just in shorts and gym shoes. That's basically what I like to be in. And I think I had an identity a lot of times that's something that I wasn't. And I wanted to make sure that, just for my own sake, that's not who I am. And I got kind of exhausted. People always ask me, and I do. In my Mastering Self-Confidence program, I talk about helping people with fashion, hygiene, all these different types of things. But I also want to incorporate working out and fitness as well. But back to the guy saying that, and I said, yeah, I actually had a problem with that a year ago doing videos, because when you make a film, you want everything to be the best it can be, as possible. The audio's got to be perfect. You want everything to look perfect. And I said when I first did videos, I wasn't even going to do them because everything was pissing me off. The background audio, that meant I had to edit them and all these things. And then I was thinking, oh my God, do I got to plug headphones in? I'm going to have these things hanging out of my ears, walking around a phone. Then I realized that's usually what I look like anyways. I'm trying to almost perform and be something or make it look a certain way that it really isn't. At least for me, it isn't. They call me the teenager because I usually walk around. Now I have a backpack, so I'm really reverting back to junior high. I used to goof around and say I peaked in high school. And I didn't want to go to college because I didn't want to let high school go. Not that I was some star, as far as education goes, but I was pretty popular in high school. And I liked high school, actually, believe it or not. I don't know how that happened, but I did. I kind of liked the camaraderie. I liked being on team sports, especially now that I look back at it. I liked it a lot more than I thought. I hated it when I was going through it. It's like one of those things in life, I think a lot of us, we're going through and we think we kind of hate it, and then we leave it, and then we miss it. I don't know if you ever moved out of a different state or city. What you kind of despised a lot of it for is what you ended up truly liking, or you kind of became. But, yeah, I was telling him, he's like, and he even mentioned the headphones. You have your mic, whatever, the wires, the white wires, Apple hooked up to my phone. And I told him, I used to even use a tripod. I don't even do that anymore. I just hold the camera and talk. And I told him it's going to take a while to get comfortable doing that. But I'll tell you something. If you want to do your own podcast or YouTube channel or whatever, just start with yourself. I think what happens or paralyzes us, we want to talk or study something to death before we start anything, and then we overanalyze it. I had to go through that even with my second book. I wrote a book, The Model Bible, to help people, I wanted to protect young females and their parents from getting taken advantage of. And I tried to, really clean that up and polish it. And then with my second book, Wingman, I said, fuck it. This is who I am. I'm going to expose myself for everything I am, every way I think at this moment. And it's kind of interesting. I look back at my book, my second book, and be like, oh my God, were you harsh? I can't believe you said this, or I can't believe, you were talking about this. And what was funny is my editor for both my books, who was amazing, pulled me back on Wingman. Thank God at times, because I'd be like, oh my God. But regardless of who you are out there, I'm trying to kind of give advice. Not that many people will take it. Whatever you're doing, start with yourself. And what I mean by that is just be true to yourself. Stop performing. I call that, especially when people start first dating, performing. Just if you don't have to always perform, your life is going to be a lot less stressful, and you're going to be, I believe, so much more comfortable in your skin. I think especially with social media, people are presenting a certain life that they're living, that they're really not living, which is cool in the gang. I don't care, man. I dig those cats either way. And do whatever you want. Photos, videos, whatever the case may be. But I think sometimes when you present something to the public, and then when you're not presenting, then when you go inside their home or their apartment or wherever they're at, they're kind of depressed or it's almost like it's something. There's a phoniness aspect to it. And that doesn't mean that you got to go on social media and start, all your problems and all your bullshit. That's not what I'm saying either. What I'm just saying is, if you want to start, basically, if you are, maybe depressed, or you're aggravated, or you're maybe not getting the results sometimes you want, or you're bored, you're kind of stuck in a gray, what do they call that? That Groundhog Day situation. I get that. I get that all the time. I feel like that. I have to address that. But again, I have to find what I'm comfortable with and what I like doing. And I think a lot of times we also get caught doing a lot of things we don't want to do. What's that famous movie that I loved in Italy? And how did he word it in Italian? I don't want to screw it up. But basically, he says in the movie, somebody asks him a question, and he says, well, when I reach this age, I stopped doing things that I didn't want to do anymore. And I think a lot of us keep doing shit we don't want to do anymore. Now, if you have a job and you're making an income and your job sucks or whatever, and you're blah, 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 boo-hoo for you, whatever, we get it. A lot of people have shitty jobs, they're in shitty relationships, they got shitty kids, shitty parents, blah, blah, blah. I get all that. But I'm saying for yourself, start learning to do things that you love to do and that you want to do, and stop kind of blowing that off. I think we kind of clutter our day too, and that's what a lot of my podcasts actually are. So let me just say that is, this recap is kind of a whole recap, but on all the subjects I've covered, but it really does come down to finding who you are and what's going to make you happy, or just getting done what you need to get done and getting all the clutterness and bullshit out of your life. Because we fill the day with so much bullshit, I realized a lot of times. Even if you have kids, people will come up with excuses a lot of times to either say, oh, I can't do that because of my kids, or I can't do that because of my wife. There's a million excuses why you can't do something. But it really comes down to priorities, which I'm going to do a podcast on priority next, I think. And I get the priority aspect, but a lot of times your priorities are kind of full of shit. And you may be doing things that you really, again, you made a priority that you don't want to do. Now, I don't know if you want to just show the public how hard you work. A lot of guys, they're always busy, but what are you getting done? I see so many people talking about, I had a discussion with that guy that I met with about how everybody claims they're busy. But through all the busyness, what is being accomplished? Right? Somebody can work 20, hours a day, and some people can work 1 hour days, and some people in that 1 hour can destroy the person in 20. It's just the way it is. If you're out there and you want to get something accomplished, like a podcast or a YouTube channel, or you just want to start changing your life, it's really on you. Do not expect anybody else to help you. I think a lot of times we're waiting to be saved by someone. And I think a lot of that is programmed in our life with religion to a certain point, that God is going to save us, which if you believe that, God bless you. Not against that. But what I'm saying is, something is going to come and someone's going to discover you, or someone's going to be like, oh, once I meet this guy, the right person, or once I get this amount of money, which of course, once this and this and this, but they don't do anything to really go get that. They're waiting for it to kind of come to them. And I get to a certain degree, and I love The Secret and all that. I even did a podcast called, Is The Secret Legit or Full of Shit? And I'm going to tell you, regardless if you believe in the law of attraction or not, if you do not take action, for the most part, 99.9% of the time, you are not going to get what you want. Now, some people may have parents that may pass away and they get a huge inheritance. Some may be 1%ers, wealthy. Some people may win the lottery, but you still have to take action. I talk about it and go buy the lottery ticket. Or somebody may buy you a lottery ticket and you win $1 million. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but most likely that is not going to happen in your life. Whatever you fucking want, go get it. And if you don't go after it, most likely you don't want it bad enough. I mean, it's just kind of common sense. A lot of people, I talk about it, you get what you deserve. And you usually get what you want. I mean, of course, everybody may want a better car, a bigger home, but I talked about this on earlier podcasts. You don't want to maintain it. I can assure you, a lot of people get an expensive car. When they get that car and they're kind of on the fence about affording that car, once they have to have it serviced, oil change, tires, brakes, they get rid of it. Unless you're wealthy again, because it's an expense and it's something you really didn't, it was almost like an impulse item. So just something to think about. And I just want to mention this in the recap. So hopefully in the future, I'm going to be evolving, changing my podcast. I don't know where it's going to go. I did want to get more funny stuff. I did put a couple funny things with my mother on here, and I did some with my girlfriend. I thought that were kind of funny. But I'm just tackling subjects that come to me that day or that week. Sometimes I'm sure I get redundant on the podcast, 100%. I say the same shit, but it's me, so I don't know how I would avoid that. I try to come up with different subjects, try to talk about different things, and hopefully if you just get like one little piece of information that helps you, or, I really want to, for the most part, regardless if you're a man or woman, just have the confidence in yourself to be yourself. And I don't think a lot of people, they almost devalue who they are, and I don't want you to do that no matter who you are. Your opinions mean a lot to a lot of people. Your life, people don't realize a lot of times you are leading a lot of people, and it could be your children, could be your parents, it could be at work. People look up to you. You may not see that all the time, and you also may not realize how many people love you, miss you, and care for you. Even though you may feel alone at times, or you may not have a huge family, but I could assure you there's people out there that care for you. So don't ever forget that. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. If you want, you could, again, check out my stuff on YouTube, like I just said, LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can go to richcelenza.com or masteringselfconfidence.com. Any of that stuff. And if you've been listening from the beginning, thank you very much, man. Please leave a comment. Agree, disagree, share, do whatever you want. Call me an asshole. I could, I could take it. All right, take care. And if you're traveling, safe travels.